Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic Roundtable Show. This is episode 560. Got a small panel, but a powerful panel. I think I found some interesting stories. It's been an interesting couple of weeks, hasn't it, listeners and viewers, to say the least. I've got the arrows and knife attacks that I have suffered from my remarks last week, but there we go. So I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves, and then we're going to get on with this coach and pony, as we say. So let's start with Vito. Vito, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Yes, I'm Vito. I'm the founder of WP Feedback, soon to be renamed. And just today we kind of announced it in the group, which we're a platform that helps web agencies and freelancers deliver projects fast and manage the entire agency.
Oh, so what are you going to be calling it?
Atarim, it's called, which means Atarim. It means websites in Hebrew, basically. We wanted this, generic name so that we can expand the vision, because we are definitely no longer a feedback tool, and we are definitely no longer a plugin even. We're like a SaaS that helps with agency management instead of a plugin that helps with feedback, how we started a year and a half ago. So a massive rebrand is coming.
Oh, well, you have to tell us more. And I've got my friend John Locke. John, would you like to join us?
Definitely. John from Lockdown Design and SEO. And what I do is I help companies like manufacturers with SEO. Here's Sally.
That's great. And I've got Spencer. Spencer, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, it's Spence from launchflows.com.
All right. And I've got my friend Sally. Sally, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Sally Getch. I am the WP fangirl and organizer of the East Bay WordPress meetup.
That's great. So let's go in story one. Oh, before I go into some stories, I've got to talk about my main sponsor. That's Kinsta Hosting. Kinsta Hosting is a WordPress-only hosting provider, a premier one. If you've got a site that needs that extra performance, like WooCommerce or a learning management system or a large membership site, you should go and have a look at Kinsta and what they've got to offer. They've been hosting the WP-Tonic site now for about 3 years and also sponsoring. And why should you care? Well, if you, like I say, if you got a site that needs some humph, or you are building a site for a client and you know it needs that extra bit of performance, you need Kinsta. So go over there, see what plans they got to offer. I suggest that you buy one for yourself or for your clients. And the main thing is to tell them that you heard about Kinsta on the WP-Tonic show. That really helps Kinsta and it helps the show as well. And I really appreciate your support. So into story one. WordPress proposal, align release cycle with industry standard. What do you reckon about this one, John?
Yeah, I don't develop a lot of software, so I don't know how big of a deal it is. Basically, what's happening is the naming conventions of the different cycles are being changed to be more like what other software development and stuff is called. So I really don't know how big of a deal this is. I mean, beta and release candidate stay the same. There's 3 other cycles that are being renamed or being proposed to be renamed. So
it always seems to be a constant, it kind of seems to die down, and then it always kind of rears its head after like a year about the update process, doesn't it? They're always. So what do you reckon, Spencer?
First of all, I had no idea there was a release cycle right now. It's only been 15 years, and I feel like I just woke up under a tree somewhere, and it's 2020. There's a release cycle.
No, it's 21 actually.
Right. Oh my God. Rip Van Spence. I will say this much: there's when you do participate.
Yeah, we have had Christmas and the New Year, Spence.
I was just sharing the story with you of how I was relating with a friend, when's the last time we went to ski? And she told me it wasn't this year, it was 2 years ago. And I sort of like 2 years. All right, so if you are one who participates at all in making something software related, there's a lot of different techniques that come up in terms of how you do it. Some people do, for example, off-site development, and then they upload it through a GitHub or a repository, and then team members can participate, blah, 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 blah. That in and of itself is a complicated task, because you got to give everybody who participates a way to manage their suggestions, and somebody has to choose, and then it becomes part of, let's say the main fork or the main repository. Here, the problem is they're trying to battle the, oh my God, all the page builders are going 1,000,000 miles an hour features for Gutenberg. At the same time, they got all these like really sometimes pretty bad core bugs or, security fixes and so forth. So you have two competing interests spread out amongst an organization that really is a headless leader, or is a headless of any leadership. So I find it interesting, because if they take a standard cycle, that's going to be the death knell of any Gutenberg development going fast. Let's be honest, because there are companies like Sandhills Development, where Pippin is published, that since he gave it out to his team, they have become very well known for being super, super reliable releases, but their releases come out like Christmas, once a year, versus launch flows, where somebody gives me a good idea at 12 o'clock and by 12:15, a new release is out there. I can afford that because I only have to ask one person. So I think this is going to be a really big problem for them. If they align to an industry standard, you're going to be able to set your calendar to wait for the next time something interesting happens with Gutenberg, which right now is the
some
last
people
thing
might be happy about that.
But I mean, in all fairness, there was another story I think we're going to talk about, but we talk about this all the time. Like the Gutenberg, hub and the other projects that were moving faster with Gutenberg, the reason they're able to move faster is because they're not part of the core release. They're add-ons to it, right? So I think they're just shooting themselves in the foot in a certain way. And there's actually a comment to the similar effect, which is like, maybe Gutenberg's feature should be a separate, I don't know what, plugin or add-on or something, so that it can go fast and not have to wait for these other things.
Well, of course, Gutenberg itself is still being developed as a separate plugin, and then they decide which bits to merge in. And I think you've done a great job, Spence, at outlining the problems if they do this.
It wasn't just me, Sally.
They
don't do that to me.
We had a talk.
My heart starts pounding.
Right.
I get hot every time you do that.
However, I mean, what the article kind of focuses on is the problem with not doing it, or at least the problem with the way they've been doing it, that there are pretty substantial changes often made, late in the beta phase, where then there's just much less time to test them. And this is part of why we're seeing that, and 2 days after we release it, the point one version comes out because, somebody discovered a serious bug. Plus, you have those episodes where you've got something that's pretty far along the path of development. You're expecting to work with it. It gets pulled at the last minute, like the post formats. Those stuck in my mind because I had just recorded a bunch of videos about them and then had to change them. So there are problems they would avoid by adopting this more standard system, and there are problems they will incur, and that does seem like pretty much the shape of life. Every decision you make is going to have some kind of a drawback.
Here we go. What do you reckon, Vito?
First of all, I think that this size of product has to have those stages, even though I agree with you, Spencer, that it does, cripple the speed of development. I don't think that WordPress needs speed of development where it is right now, or at least the core doesn't really need that. That's what we're here for, basically, to enhance on what they missed, I guess. Also, I think that no matter what they will do, all right, so that being said, you shouldn't elaborate the process more than you should. So creating like 5 stages until you release something is not going to help with the 0.1 version, because no matter how many developers are using it, it's not the millions and millions of websites that are out there. So stuff will be found, that's just part of the game. For, I guess, any product in the world, not necessarily just, not even just digital products. When it's done at scale, or when it's used at scale, weird stuff will happen. People that have 1,500 plugins installed on their installation, and or the guy that has just one plugin that is from 7 years ago. So these kind of stuff they will never find, because the people that are working on WordPress are usually people that know how to use it properly in most cases. So they're not the ones that are, like there's always, I always remember this picture of a pathway, so someone designed a really beautiful kind of like brick laid out pathway that goes like this, but then the user went on the grass and paved their own, path inside the grass, just stomping on everything. So that's going to happen either way. What I would suggest is just keeping it to that's not up to me. But what I would do is I would set it up as like a 3-step system, alpha, beta, and out. And that's it. And then the 0.1 will come anyway, and 2 will come, and 3 will come.
Yeah, right. I agree with you. Right. I think this goes on to story 2. Oh, I just love this. Stupid. From Professor Galloway, Scott Galloway. So who should I choose? This choose Spencer. So what did you think of Stupid?
I mean, it brings up what's happening now in the United States with, like, literally as we speak every day with this is like such a big topic.
Can you do us a favor, actually, Spencer? Can you give a brief outline what you think the article is about?
Essentially, he's using a metaphor of the pandemic, of a virus, for what's happening with America, where there is like Trumpism versus rational thought, or conservatism absconded by Trumpism compared to liberalism. And there's some obvious comparisons, and John can speak very fluently on this, but I mean, I'm a big fan of what was recently said about AOC and so forth, that what can happen in a liberal republic is that a fringe group can essentially create an iconic figure, or an iconic figure can show up that irritates the fundamental basis of this, which is, in America, certain white people feel disempowered by the fact that other people of color or other gender or orientation are having a fair shot at the same way they did, but are succeeding at being normal, or succeeding at being happy and healthy. And there's something about the innate nature of human beings that when a badly intended iconic figure uses those natural instincts and emotions and magnifies them and holds them up to these people's faces, that it riles them up to be completely irrational and self-destructive to the very foundations of our republic. And you can see that now because the hypocrisy of how many of these actors, even the ones in government, the police in some cases, the Black Lives Matter protests in the very same space, when ordered by the Trump people, gets 450 people arrested and massive military action and so forth. And even as we're sitting here today with video of people bragging of them doing these criminal actions in real time, where the Trump people a month before it said that has to be punishable by 10 years in prison. People bragging about it, and there's still only like 90 people arrested or even called, and they feel no guilt. And you've got these really radical new senators or Congress people saying, like, the green lady saying, we're gonna impeach President Biden before he's even been enlisted in the office. This is the same kind of viral problem like COVID. In other words, we can't have a healthy state of the union. We can't have a healthy country where there is a mindset that a virus, this really crazy Trumpist ideological thing that stemmed from Reagan infects all these disenfranchised white people and makes them into basically viral zombies going around and destroying the body that we all live in. And
Yeah,
I think that's the thing.
I thought that was a very good synopsis. Thank you. But the other element, the reason why I thought it was relevant to put it in the show is his comments about social media. I think the hypocrisy of Silicon Valley, and also very sizably also the popular social platforms, like Twitter. I think Twitter's position is hypocrisy itself.
But that's totally temporary, John. That I didn't address that, but let me just say something. We've said in this show before, and I feel it's very true, you only have two variables in Silicon Valley. Does it make money or does it not make money?
0 and 1.
There is no morality in Silicon Valley. So when you look
and this is different from other aspects of business. How?
I'm saying, for example, in Silicon Valley, nobody brings in religion. Okay. You could have, let's say, if you're in the deep South, you can have some, preacher or somebody who is making $1 trillion a year tax-free, flying on his jet. And there's a bit of a hypocrisy because they're bringing the Bible into it. Silicon Valley is not bringing the Bible or religion into it. They're not trying to claim a higher power. Their only God is investor return and the sense of worth that comes from that. But the thing is that these 30-something-year-olds or 40-something, depending, who are controlling these major channels, they're more the problem of like the Andrew Carnegie around the turn of the century. They own the railroads, and somebody woke up and realized, shit, we're really screwed because all the railroads are owned by one person. And what's happening is now they're getting their comeuppance. The comeuppance is where the needle swings, where enough people wake up to, oh my God, I didn't really realize that all of the problems are because Trump or whomever could say any effing thing they want on Twitter, that really the problem is a Jack Dorsey problem because he was allowing this to happen, or a Mark Zuckerberg problem. And now the needle is going to swing along with corporate sponsorship way the hell to the other side, at least temporarily, to counterbalance this. Whether we can find some place in the middle with it, hard to say, but that's definitely the swinging of the needle. They got away with it until they couldn't, and now their only God is money. They're realizing, holy crap, we're going to be losing our whole company if we allow this to go on, because everybody's going to be rebelling the other way.
Yeah. So, Vito, what's the view from London, from your friend, when they view what's going on in the US? And what's your view on the social media platforms and their they now seem to be totally trying to get rid of Mr. President Trump, where 1 week ago they couldn't get enough of his outpourings, could they?
So it's kind of ironic because they built him up and now they're trying to tear him down in that way. At least that's how it seems from outside. I would say, like, I'm trying to keep it, like Spencer is saying, as like a business kind of a business decision mindset. He just broke the terms and condition. That's it, that's all that happened here. And he signed the terms and condition when he joined each one of those platforms. And when he broke it, like when when I was using Facebook 10 years ago with my band and liking or adding like a billion friends a day, they kicked me out, I was breaking the terms and condition. So what can you do? Like the thing that is surprising me is that how everyone is placing this as more of a political decision or political kind of point, instead of saying like there are agreements that you agreed to when you joined the platform, and you're meant to use it in some way. And if you're going to use it in another way, we have the right as the software owners to just kick you out. It's not yours. And everyone is talking about like censorship. It's not I don't think it's about censorship. I think it's just a matter of there were guidelines and rules that were established when you first joined. And when you didn't do that,
yeah, but you didn't.
Well, yes, but the problem is that the reason those terms and conditions weren't enforced like the first time something incendiary got said was political.
Well, Maybe, I don't know about that. I think, to me, it
was-
seems
I
that it
don't
was
mean
just
like
like things went
political in
overboard,
this-
you know,
right,
like things went over the edge, and people could see the need for enforcing or like like, let's say, inciting violence is a you know, a clause in the terms and condition.
Inciting
but
violence is a crime.
yeah, well, but it wasn't. It didn't happen, or maybe it did, but it didn't happen to this
I just
extent.
want to ask you,
that
but
was
because
kind
you're,
of like, okay.
I just want to ask you this because you're based in the UK. Do you think, because of the regulations over the media in the UK, that if President Trump was based in the UK, could he actually say the things that he said in the US in the UK?
Yes.
He could
Yes.
still.
Well, the audience that Trump has, he will have it everywhere in the world. You know, like there's the.
No, I mean,
this,
if he was domicile in the UK, could either somebody who's living in the UK who's not a UK citizen but domicile in the UK or is a UK citizen, do you think they could actually legally, in the framework of the legislation that controls media in the UK, say what he's said in the US?
what he's saying. I don't know if it would be in broadcast as it is in the US, because like you know, it seems like the news channels in the US are, you know, like BBC doesn't look anything close to CNN or Fox News. You know, it seems like it's more of a, yeah, it's more, well, it's still like, you know, there's still a bit of leeway there, but it's more about information or trying to be informational about the things that are being discussed than just a reality show. Like you're looking at American TV, everything is just a massive reality show. So from that aspect, I don't know if it would have gotten, it probably would have been a calmed down a little bit, you know, or just kind of making it a little more stale, like the British like to do. But it very much, you know, it very much taps into the American culture, the whole,
I've got
the
actually,
whole thing.
I've got
actually. Of course, there was that small wiretapping issue with the British press a few years ago.
Just a little bit, and that was under Murdoch's. Sally's bringing up Murdoch, the owner of Sky, was involved in, or his some of his editor of the News of the World was involved in the bugging of almost all celebrities.
Right.
And
I'm not saying these guys are saints, that's for sure. Like you know, no one in politics is a saint. This is what
I have a prediction before I put it over to John. I have a prediction panel. I think our president will be leaving America in the near future. He will be going to a Middle Eastern country that doesn't have very strong extraditional agreements with the USA. There, he will establish a internet television platform to rival RT, and for the next 4 years, we will.
I think he should.
Wait a minute. RT is actually not a bad news station.
No, he isn't. But I'm saying in the 4 years, we will have the pleasure of him broadcasting like 6 hours a day on his own platform to 70 million supporters that are rabid, that absolutely love him. That is the prospect that we're.
Well, yes, I don't know that all 70 million people who voted for Donald Trump are the sort of people who are, you know, going to go and storm the Capitol.
It's not going to happen, though. It's impossible because 2 reasons. A, his whole family, including his love of his life, you know, Ivanka, are all going to be here. Okay. And so he would have to literally throw his entire family under the bus because every single prosecutor.
Wait, you think he would hesitate?
Would round up.
Do you honestly think he would hesitate in doing that like that?
Okay, I'm not saying, listen, there's always like a percentage, but he would literally have to cut himself off from you'd have to throw every family member, related person, everybody ever knew under the bus, which by the way, isn't out of the question for him. But then the second thing is, is that you now have full control, thankfully, by the Democrats of everything. Extradition, smextradition, because what will happen is those other governments will want to reestablish good ties with America. There is not a country on the planet that will hold Trump against the wishes of the United States government at this point, because to do so would be to alienate their entire country from all the benefits of world participation. That is, there is no upside to holding him in their country. He has nothing. The only one who could do it would be Russia, and they've already decided he's like got no use to them anymore.
All right, there you go. I'm sure they can find somewhere for him in
fantasy,
Moscow.
But what's really going to happen is there's going to be like a David Koresh showdown in Mar-a-Lago when he tries to hole himself into Mar-a-Lago, and the New York guys go down there to pick him up. That's what's going to be next on the news, because there's so many people ready and willing. The second the clock ticks 12 o'clock on the 20th or whatever the date is, they're going to be waiting for him with the car and cuffs. I mean, because he's got such a backlog of people waiting for that moment.
No, I think I call him Teflon Trump. You know, nothing sticks, and nothing will stick to this guy. His ability to weasel.
He threw Giuliani under the bus. No attorneys will represent him now. Literally, the news story is he can't get an attorney to touch him because he even refused to pay Giuliani. It's being reported. Like Giuliani threw his soul.
Poor Giuliani. Over to John. Over to John. What do you reckon?
And I want to clarify this too, because the name of the article is stupid, but for people who might not read this article, I just want to say, like, Scott Galloway is using a different definition than you might be thinking of for this. And I agree with about 65% of what he says here. He starts getting close to like what the cause of all this is, but he doesn't quite get there because he's leaving certain parts out. The people who stormed the Capitol, most of them were professional. They were not from the trailer park. Yeah. They were not from, they were not rednecks. They were like realtors, a school therapist, an attorney. These are all people, lawyers that had professional jobs.
Firemen, police officers,
cops. Yeah.
Right. It's an important point he makes about, like, stupidity.
It's not
nothing to do with education or intelligence. Nope. It's an attitude.
People choose people gravitate toward the information that lines up with what they already believe. That's the truth of the matter. These people are not uneducated. They choose to make these decisions. But we need to recognize too, this phenomenon did not start with Donald Trump, didn't start with Ronald Reagan and his carefully coded rhetoric about welfare queens, didn't start with George Wallace, who was a segregationist who won 3 states as an independent in 1964, didn't start with Woodrow Wilson, who called The Birth of a Nation, which is like the first hit movie in America, which is basically a Klan propaganda film that demonized Black people. This goes all the way back, and we still have remnants of this. And this is why people, when it's Black Lives Matter saying, don't shoot us, we're getting shot by the cops discriminately, when, people storm the Capitol and try and take over the government, and they're planning to kidnap and kill Congress people, and Congress people is coming out or in on this. People say, but what about all these so-called riots, that happened during the summer? Well, for one, a lot of the violence didn't happen until cops escalated the violence. They kept escalating the violence, and that's how these things turn this way. Two, there's a lot of agent provocateurs that were doing things to blame Black Lives Matter. And these many videos that show this, people saying, don't, break that window, don't, do this or that. But it's a lack of empathy for Black people in this country, because we still do not consider them equal. And this is something that I found out over the last 12 months.
Well, it's not only Black people, isn't it? It's the Hispanic community.
Yeah, Yeah.
It's literally anybody that
Build the wall.
doesn't fit the right stereotype, does it? You know?
Yeah, it's build the wall. It's the lie of manifest destiny that enabled genocide of Native Americans. And this is it, you know, and this is his spirit. It still is the undercurrent in American culture.
Actually, I just want to,
Yeah,
because I want to wrap this up and then go for our break. But I think it's even something even more than that, John. I think the greatest crime in America is not being black or being Hispanic. I think the greatest crime is being black, Hispanic, and being poor. I think.
Oh no, it's a much greater crime if you're not poor, because how dare you? How dare you attempt to, achieve human status? Never mind wealth and success.
Yeah, probably. So.
And it works the other way around, because this Josh Hawley, who is a highly educated private school for high school, Princeton, he is portraying himself as a simple man. Like he's just one of the good old boys, when in fact he's highly crafty and more dangerous because of it, because unlike Trump, he actually does have the wherewithal and the brains to use this kind of thing in an effective manner. But it's ironic, isn't it? Because like if you are of brown or black color and you're highly educated and a good citizen and successful, you will be taken down because you don't belong. But if you're a white person, you are allowed to pretend that you're a simpleton in order to win the hearts and minds of the other simpletons. It's a one-way street depending on your color. And it's so patently obvious in the way that, again, the police respond and things to, pulling over just an ordinary traffic stop, let alone, people protesting peacefully. There was some cartoon that I found that was posted where it was like from Family Guy, the main character's in a car and the cop holds up like the Pantone color. You posted it. And it's, like, what is this? Is this a riot or is it just a protest? It depends on how dark your skin is. And it's just crazy how obvious that is.
But what interests me is that in the media, in social media, and in the traditional media of print and TV and radio, there are so many hypocrites. There seems to be an endless well of these hypocrites that get so worked up, and they've spent 4 years enriching themselves in enabling this man to say what he has said on what makes me laugh, what makes me I'm so surprised is that so many people are so surprised about how things have ended up. He has never really hidden his criminality and his attitudes from day one. He's been consistent in publicising what he really thinks, and he hasn't exactly hidden anything to anybody. He was quite. I think he made a statement that he could walk down Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and nothing would be done about him. And he said that at the beginning of his campaign. So why are people surprised? I'm puzzled why people are surprised.
That was the appeal, wasn't it?
That was the sell,
honesty.
Wasn't it, Vito? Yeah. That was the brand, wasn't it? That was the that's what you brought into brand Trump.
What you see is what you get. Yeah, that's the kind of
I'm not a fake. I'm awful, but I'm just telling how it is. And all these other politicians are just they're just backhanding corrupt politicians, and I'm awful, but I at least I tell you what they haven't got the guts to say, and that was his brand. Why is everybody so surprised that it's ended up the way it has? But let's go for our break, and we'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. Had a good discussion. I just thought it was a great article from Professor. I didn't like John said, I agreed with about 70% of it, but at least it made me think. On to the next one. Competition and positioning for WordPress products in 2021 and beyond. I thought this was ideal for you, Vito. What did you think of this particular piece?
First of all, I like reading Alex's blog. This is a great blog to just learn about the industry, and he sees things in a very interesting way. I agree with most of the stuff. So just to kind of like recap what's going on here, it's a pretty long one, but basically he's saying that there is still a lot more room for growth, and there's a lot more room for new companies to emerge within the ecosystem over the upcoming years. Also, while some products are starting to consolidate with each other, we're going to be seeing some mammoths going into or more of those kind of unicorns growing inside the space that are just kind of like consuming some of the smaller players in there. That being said, it doesn't disrupt the smaller ones for making an impact. And I think that this panel is a good example of that. You know, in our space, if you just do something good, then it's just going to float to the top. And even you know, it was talking about like Elementor and how not only Elementor, WordPress, the WordPress.com platform, the WooCommerce.com that has teamed up with GoDaddy to create that kind of environment. Elementor with their cloud application. Some people are, or some players are looking at the industry not just from a product point of view, but from a platform point of view. And I think that this is a very interesting point to follow. John, maybe an SEO-based platform, you know, like a SEO-based WAS. So this is definitely an interesting read around this. What I didn't agree with is the add-ons model. I always hate the add-ons model.
Oh, right.
And the reason for that is because like you really end up with 100 plugins on your website. You know, you install EDD, that's 15 plugins. And then you need affiliate WP, that's another 15 plugins. And then you need Elementor and their add-ons, not even talking about Gutenberg that you cannot really use on its own. Like it's not usable on its own. You have to have like 5-6 more stuff on there. But even the SEO plugins are looking into that kind of angle. Gravity Form,
Quite
you have
easy.
7, 8.
It's quite easy to end up with a site with 60, 70 plugins.
Easy.
It's very
You
easy,
basically
isn't
have
it?
4 tools and you're at 70 plugins. I'm not kidding. Like this is so we were just redoing our website, and we're looking at our list. We literally were close to the 100 plugins on the website after 2 years of using it. And I was like, okay, something has to be done. Let's try and cut this down to 30. I couldn't. Like
No,
I ended up back to 50, 60 plugins with just the core functionality of selling something, affiliates and Gravity Form, and you're done. I think that this
are you
really
going to
needs
have
to
one
stop.
plugin that does 100 things, or 100
No,
plugins that
so-
do one thing each?
No. So what I do think is the right approach is for platforms like you know, from I was giving examples for EDD, Gravity Form, and those kind of guys, is creating a way that the script is deployed when needed, but it's still loaded like in where it's needed, instead of it being a plugin, which means that it is loaded on every page of the website, whether you like it or not, to some extent. So they can control that. And I don't mean installing everything in, but with Gutenberg, the way that it is working right now, and it was also talking about the human-made kind of platform, headless CMS that are going into the space. The ability to use APIs to deploy features is easy. And so so let's say you install EDD as a free plugin.
Yes, well, apparently the ability to use APIs to, you know, pull down the entire contents of Parler was also easy.
That's so, yeah, you know, WordPress has other security issues regardless to APIs, and that is actually something.
Well,
that is
you know,
better.
I totally understand where you're coming from, but using APIs have their own issues, don't they? It's a glorious vision, but sometimes the reality doesn't match the vision, does it? You know.
Well, I think Vito has a really good point about the way plugins work at the moment, so that you do get scripts loaded on a bunch of pages where they're not being used. And I mean, you know, people were just sharing some snippets in the Genesis chat about here. This is what we do to like not put WooCommerce shit on pages that aren't product pages. You know, if you're not using that because it, you know, it causes a lot of performance issues.
You load WooCommerce on the contact us page. You know, why?
Right. So that you know, there maybe needs to be just a broader structural issue addressed about whether it's a plugin or a SaaS or whatever it is, to find a way to, you know, only run the scripts where you need them.
Yeah. So like it can be done, you know, but with the add-ons culture, I think that it's just kind of pushing it away from doing that. Like we have features that are loading just where they need to. You know, nothing needs to be loaded. We have like the graphic feedback stuff. Why would I load that on someone's about page? So I don't on all of the associated scripts with that. But so it can be done. But with add-ons, it makes it a lot harder to do because of the flexibility of these tools. I would even damn, I had another good point that I forgot now. Talking about this. But around the kind of so the add-ons culture that happens in not only WordPress, but this is like a culture that happens throughout the web design industry. We see this a lot on Shopify now also, and even like
I can tell you, last time it's now almost 4 years since I did my last major Shopify build out. And it's rampant. It was rampant then. So, so you're saying it's rampant even more.
Yeah, it's even worse. But what I'm saying is that I think that this is causing us as an industry to take the same mindset of add-ons of like small bits and pieces and distill it into other aspects of our businesses and our lives. And one of the things that I was kind of researching recently and was pretty surprised to find out is that, you know, like a web designer delivering a website is using between 7 to 15 different tools that are not only used by them, which to us it's fine because we already have the plugin and add-ons mindset around it, but it's introduced to non-savvy clients that all they know is like just like 2 apps in their lives, you know, email and Facebook or WhatsApp and Facebook.
Sorry, it's Excel and PowerPoint if they're
right.
If they're in corporations.
But Vito,
see what I mean? Like, you know, like this is sifting, this culture is sifting into everything that we do. And I think that this is creating a much bigger problem for the entire industry than just that kind of thing.
But Vito, my beloved friend, I have the solution for you. It's called Jetpack. All right, I'm sorry. I just couldn't resist it. I just couldn't resist
you know,
it.
I haven't installed Jetpack in like 10 years. I don't know what's going on there. But the idea.
Yes, well, let me tell you, it doesn't grow
right.
like a unicorn. It grows like a cancer.
But the idea of it is right. You know, like that you should have. You know, it's kind of disruptive to the way that the industry was developed over the past 10, 15 years. But the concept of having a product that serves you from different aspects is correct. Like I
think there's some element. I think it depends on how far you push it, and I think what your observation and remarks, they have some truth to them. But on the other hand, that is the strength of a module-based system, and I think a module-based system that's based on common sense principles will always, in my opinion, always be better.
But why do you need 15 plugins for your WooCommerce shop? Why? Like you need that you wanted WooCommerce.
Well, I mean,
you didn't want 15.
I just installed WooCommerce. I built a store recently for a client, and I believe we have 2 add-ons for that. One is the Square to process the payments. And one is the connect it to Constant Contact.
Right.
That's it. You know, I didn't have to.
That's a very basic shop, but I can tell you, like for example, a client that we have that has a successful shop. You know, selling like about $100,000 a month on there, they need features. You know, they need the suite of features that a lot of them you would get built into some of those other platforms, like a coupon, like an elaborate coupon system, and then a wish list. And then, you know, also integrating to Stripe and something like that. But then you have a shipping plugin for each shipping, and they use like 4 shipping mechanisms. So you have 4 plugins just on the shipping front.
Oh yeah, it's very easy to add up. And as a customer, it can be quite annoying to feel like you're being like nickeled and dimed into all of these, you know, all of these different add-ons. You know, it seems like in large part, it's a philosophical difference about modularity versus comprehension, but there's also like either one of those could be done badly. And we see a lot of it done badly in WordPress plugins. And I think that's partly because a lot of us are amateurs. We don't even, you know, when we start putting stuff out there, we don't even know that, you know, there might be a way to not load that script on every page. And
right.
You know, and
but,
you know,
but my point, I'm not trying to dislike it. I think that there is a lot of place for developers that are developing like a super focused, very like niched kind of add-ons for bigger platforms. But WooCommerce themselves have like a suite of 50 plugins. EDD has a suite of 50 plugins. Gravity has a suite of 50 plugins. You know, each one of them is adding this stuff. So, like, why can't I add a checkbox and based on the email marketing tool I want to integrate to, instead of needing to install another plugin for MailChimp or another plugin for AC or another plugin for this? Like,
well, with a lot of the Gravity stuff, that is pretty much it. Click this button. I mean, yes, it installs a little bit of something,
plugin,
but it's tidily integrated into, you know, turn on that extension, turn on that extension.
So, what do you reckon, Spencer?
I mean, Vito's points are well taken. I think that the issue that I see, especially in the WooCommerce ecosystem, and comparing it to, let's say, the EDD thing where they took back all the add-ons, they mentioned the fact that Pippin had alluded that it became a Wild West with all of the politics and the personality conflicts of having independent marketplace. That's sort of like the landlord is in charge of the parking lot where they have the Sunday farmers market. That's different than if you just have a Costco and you sell the same stuff inside your one store. It's oftentimes easier to just take responsibility. So they spend all that money to buy back all of those add-ons from these independent people. As to your question about why or whether it'd be easier to incorporate them as a checkbox option, I think the reason that it doesn't happen is because these features can grow out organically. And in order to incorporate them into the framework of the larger plugin requires almost like a from scratch rebuild of how the code gets implemented. Again, I can only speak to it on a micro scale for my own software, but because I like to do those, oh my God, I'm gonna add a feature. I found that I had to remake, just like you guys are maybe doing now, I had to remake the architecture of the plugin to allow that to happen without it turning into a spaghetti ball of, oh, this connects to here, connects to here, connects to here. So
which is the right thing to do. That's what you should do. You should restructure your architecture as you're expanding. But the module-based system doesn't even allow that because the product stays the same and people are just patching onto it.
But that's the problem. Here's what goes on. So now you got a situation like, I can speak specifically to WooCommerce. WooCommerce has full team. It's the biggest team in all of WordPress, and they do a great job. Smartest people around. Mike Jolly leads the team. Smartest guy of coding I've met in a long time. In my opinion, has no clue how to do marketing. Not one clue. So there's such an enormous amount of add-ons, including for my plugin, because even as of version 4.9 of WooCommerce, for God's sake, they still don't have a basic sales funnel mechanism in place. I mean, everything my plugin does is a gaping hole that's so obvious. And when he's asked about it, it's like trying to talk to, like Sheldon or something on the Big Bang Theory. Like you just go off into like eyes glazed over. So how could WooCommerce possibly integrate all these things when their core team, first of all, are not experts in all of the million end use cases? Number two, they have no financial incentive. In the WooCommerce marketplace, I find this really strange and ironic. If you want to make a plugin Number one, they only give you 40% of the revenue for selling your own add-on in their marketplace, which I think is ridiculous patently. It should be 50-50 as a basis. But number two is that you have to go through all of their rigorous testing. They said, don't expect us to even get back to you for 6 weeks after you apply. So the point is, they get their hands full. They're not going to refactor the whole code. They don't want to take responsibility for something being in the marketplace until they've given it a proctological exam. And then you're under their thumb to do all the work and only get 40% of the revenue, which means that unlike Shopify, where Shopify is a platform, nobody can access the code. So the developers there make a mint, because what they're doing is providing high-level access to the REST API that mere mortals wouldn't be able to do like they can in WordPress, where you can get to the code yourself. And I think that's the significant difference. As long as it's easy to get to the code, as I hope it remains, as long as there's a disincentive for the bigger player, like primary plugins like WooCommerce, to do all of the things themselves, there will never be the same incentive of a Shopify or something to kind of bring it into a marketplace. But a bigger issue is this. When you look at like where this is all going, it doesn't matter. Because when I explain to people is like WooCommerce WordPress plus WooCommerce was a giant potluck dinner that grew out of a bunch of people 15 years ago, like a small group, everybody knew their names. And then it turned into this thing where there's 250,000 people bringing the same meatloaf or potato salad to the picnic. And all of the confusion that arises today is based upon that. Why do we have 64 plugins that do the same thing? Because that's how it was all along, and nobody at the top fixed it. Now, I think that's going to self-correct itself. I mean, it's showing signs of it right now, just because of like the articles we just talked about, right? The big players will consolidate. The little players will have no incentive to try to compete. And for better or worse, the big stuff's going to float to the top. And it'll be very
well, yes. I remember hearing an interview with the creators of Ninja Forms, and the interviewer said, so something that kind of amounted to, how did you get the nerve to introduce a form plugin when Gravity Forms was so well established? And they were like, we didn't even know it existed. It's like, obviously we never looked to see if there was another plugin that did this already. And I think that happens a lot.
And the other thing too is we don't talk about this, but let's be honest, the number of people who are using or putting their businesses online is growing exponentially due to the epidemic and everything else, right? So as much as it sounds like, well, there's a fixed amount of pie for everybody to slice up, the pie just keeps getting bigger. And I'm shocked, because we deal with like verticals that come from the CRM world. I'm shocked how many people are in 2020 unaware of what you can do with WordPress. I mean, there are millions and millions of people never even heard of WordPress. And when those people are exposed to stuff, it's fair as fair. I mean, they may never hear of Gravity Forms.
All right. Is it okay, John, that I move on? Yeah, right. Thanks, John. I think with the panel's agreement, I don't want this becoming War and Peace. This episode's gonna be a little bit longer than normal. But I'd like to jump to story 6. Is that okay with the panel? Because Sally brought this to my attention, and it's the Sandhills Development 2020 year review. And normally, if these end up in my inbox or I'm aware of them, it's just yawn. But I thought they did a really good job with their write-up with this. When I started reading it, I was quite impressed as Pippin wrote it. What do you reckon, John? What did you reckon with Pippin's effort here and Sandhills Development 2020 year review?
Wow, really great write-up. And if I'm going to wish success on somebody in the WordPress community, I think Pippin is a good guy to have it. Whenever I read these, I feel like I'm failing, to be quite honest. But a lot of tough decisions that they made this year. I mean, they sold Restrict Content Pro. That was a very successful plugin, but they wanted to focus on affiliate WP and EDD. They also have the brewery, which they had to close in March, basically because stuff was drying up. Is a lot of people who own like bars in particular are going through it. But he's done a lot of good things with his success, which I think is very cool. He's he's committed to offsetting carbon footprint and helping climate change. And they bought grassland, which basically offsets a carbon output. They did the math on it. I think that's pretty cool. They have all women lead team at which one? It was like EDD, was it not?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the team is growing. It's good. I think these are like pretty cool. A good guy, good team, runs his stuff correctly, and does positive things.
Yeah, and he kind of talked about having to sack some people, and now I've had, in my business career, had to sack a few people. I've always tried to do it respectfully, but I've had to say goodbye.
Whoops.
They just wasn't doing their job and they wouldn't listen, basically. But I've never enjoyed doing it. It's not something that I've ever looked forward for on my list. On Tuesday, I'm going to sack Bill, whoopee, it's going to be a great day. It's not something that but it's something.
It's very painful and awkward, even if you are delighted to see the back of the person.
Part of you is, it's time. But in some, I learned also that when not now, because most of the people that I work with, it's on they're independent contractors and they're working for me. So it's a different type of relationship. But when I learned the hard way that some of the people that were sacking, in some ways they knew it was coming and they were relieved. They were relieved because they knew they weren't getting on inside the company and they weren't getting on with me. And they were in two minds about looking for another job and leaving. So in a way, it kind of it settled the matter. And I was always pretty generous as I could be with the package that I offered them, because I didn't want. They were never going to invite me, send me a Christmas card, but I didn't want them to be totally, I'm looking for the right word and I'm struggling. So I was impressed he wrote about that. What did you think, Vito?
So first of all, I love these articles. When I first got into this game, I read all of these, the ones that Pippin released, and that gave me like a very interesting insight into the industry that I didn't have an idea about, because I was just from the user point of view rather than the maker. I just kind of skimmed through this now because I missed this one this year, but I can already see that it's continuing down the same path as with previous years, being super transparent. It's always great to see revenue from other companies and revenue growth, especially because last year we wasn't even talking into these type of numbers. So 2020 is definitely a great year for them, just skimming through this. Yeah, awesome company. I use a lot of their products, and even though we're dissing the
their add-ons,
kind of concept, I still have 30 Sandhill plugins installed on my website as of now. So I think that's the best testament of their success. So kudos to Pippin. Well done, man.
So what do you reckon, Sally?
Well, the specific thing that caught my eye, and these are always impressive and thoughtful, and there's been some clearly steps that they took about things like making sure everybody was paid according to the appropriate scale and transparency about salaries and a bunch of stuff. But I was most interested in the.
Can I just quickly interrupt?
RCP.
Because as you were saying that, I just want to put one thing to you, Sally. I normally hate these type of documents, especially when they're written by the PR. They come from a larger company, because they're normally written by the PR department, and they're normally.
Well, yeah, I mean,
They're
the sort of
truly, they
the sort
normally
of
truly
corporate version of this is usually
awful,
very
aren't they?
well. Yes, I mean, there's a lot of rah. There's a lot of trying to put a good face on things that weren't very good. There's and Pippin doesn't do that. He says, "Look, this is what it is. We found out there were some things we were doing badly. There were some stuff that here's some stuff that didn't work and why and." That's a very good thing to see, and he organizes it in a way that's easy to follow. But the RCP thing had fascinated me because I had not read all the rationale before, and he linked over to the article that he wrote like after it was sold and about the process of deciding to sell it. And it's like, yeah, no, we sold it. It was very profitable. It was like a huge part of our revenue stream, and we still decided to sell it. And this is how that decision came about.
That was fascinating. His rationality, wasn't it?
Right. And that, among other things, well, it freed up, cash for, paying people to do things, and it freed up developer time. That moving that over meant that it was like, they had suddenly magically got 3 more people on their team. Because the people they already had, who already knew how they worked and were already well integrated into the system, had more hours at their disposal.
So, Spencer, what did you think of it?
I really, really enjoy everything that Pippin writes. I mean, since the earliest days of WordPress, he's one of the people that has contributed just a real broad sense of where things are positioned, in addition to the knowledge that goes along with it. So both as a developer, as a business person, as a higher thinker, as a person with a moral compass. You know me, I call everybody bullshit, and I'm willing to take it if anybody wants to call me out on it. But like, I have nothing but positive things to say or think about.
It's sickening, really. When I first met him, I thought
of it. I mean, I want to say,
to be so good at everything, isn't it? When I met him first, he looked like a 12-year-old, and he still looks about 25, 30 years younger than he probably is. And his ability to do things, and it's almost so sickening, isn't it, really?
But there's a difference there. The Schadenfreude does not exist for me with him. Like, there are people in the world who are bifurcated personalities, public persona, real persona. Those people deserve what they get. And as I say, I like to hold the mirror up to myself. That's where a lot of my, guilt comes from. When I, look in the mirror, I go, like, I got to be honest with myself. What I love about him is that he doesn't claim to be perfect. He shared not to, I forget what you call that, but where you pat yourself on the back to say some he's not humble bragging. He's just being factual, but putting it into the context of the struggle. Now, keep in mind, there are certain people like him and Justin Tadlock who live in the middle of the farm fields of America. So I'm not saying that's the reason he's so able to focus, but I certainly feel his ability to focus comes from the fact that he's positioned himself in a world where he can run lots of things undistracted. But I also love the humanity part of the story. When he discussed why he had to get out of the software and have other people take over the team, it wasn't like, oh, so I could start my Ferrari collection. It was because he was losing his marbles and he realized it, so he went off to try something else. So really, I really, really love this particular year's thing because it really shows how far a company can go. I have no idea how many people work for the company, but it seems like there's dozens now. So he's supporting a large number of.
Can you imagine what the terrible thing is? I think he's one of the, and I don't want this to become a fest show for Pippin, because he doesn't need that. He doesn't need that from me.
I'm sure his ears are burning.
But I always think he is the best. One of the best examples of the best of WordPress. Can you imagine what he could have done if he had, he was the CEO of Automatic? Can you imagine? I don't
think he wants to be the CEO.
No, he doesn't want it anyway. But can you imagine somebody of his caliber was the head of Automatic instead of what we got at the present moment, which isn't, to be blunt, is poor leadership at the best.
It's
Can
a
you
different
imagine
skill
what
set.
he could have, somebody of Pippin's standard could achieve in 1 year, what's taken 5 years of just morally no direction leadership, without offending, and probably achieving it without offending half the WordPress community in the process.
It wouldn't work. But
uh,
John, just look at what he's saying here. The reason I'm jumping on you is because he was able to do what he did because he's out in the middle of the cornfields, which is a good thing. No politics, no venture capitalists, no flash and whiz bang stuff. He made really tough decisions that you could not make politically if you were a high profile guy like Yoast or something. Or you couldn't do it if you're Matt and you had to answer to the board of directors. Hey, what's going on with our money?
Yeah, I have been unfair
So
there. You're right.
That's the point. It's like this is the alternative path to success, which I personally really love because as a non-venture funded entrepreneur my entire life, even though I have pals that do VC, I think it's like a Shark Tank situation. Take the money very cautiously because it's really more than about the money. You're getting into bed with a whole bunch of things and people you don't expect. Whereas if you take the slow and steady, you have the ability to make these kinds of decisions even as your company grows. And we're now seeing the payoff. But really, I love just more than anything, the fact that he has nothing or nobody to apologize to because he's never had to make those outlandish please people type of choices in the public forum.
Right, yeah. I just wanted that. That's great. Thanks, panel. So let's go. I have forgotten my own recommendation. I will make sure.
I would just kind of to continue on this, like the last thought. It's just really interesting to see what can be done in a decade, and that is what this post really came to. Because I think the first one was 2012, right? So 9 years, and it's like, just go and read the 2012 one that is on there to see what people can do in like 10 years. And it's just amazing, fully bootstrapped.
Yeah, fully bootstrapped. So,
can I interrupt one more thing? Can we just make a comment before we go about Kyle Duesenberg's article on Gutenberg? Because there was an article that we didn't get to talk about where the title, and I'm not saying Kyle's trying to be clickbaity, but damn, Gutenberg smokes Elementor. Then you read between the lines and he says, I spent like 3 minutes making an Elementor page, and then I spent over an hour struggling to make a Gutenberg page, couldn't get it sorted out, and couldn't get it working on mobile. But I ignored all of that, and damn, is it smoking on desktop. That's kind of like saying, yeah, I made a Ferrari at home out of paper mache, and I didn't bother putting an engine in it or really making it work.
It is pretty funny that when you read it, it's like, well, I'm going to still keep using Elementor. Jesus.
You get full star for that, Spencer.
I launched my paper mache Ferrari with bottle rockets, and it went 100 miles an hour. So it's totally.
And then these discussions about speed. He said, the reality is what Vito pointed out. The average. I'm gonna give you. I'm embarrassed to say this. On the WP-Tonic site, I've got 90 plugins installed, and it just happens over about 4 or 5 years. It just happens, doesn't it, Vito? It's like putting the weight on. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't keep your eye on it, and then you end up with beer belly without the beer.
Stuff. You need everything.
And then you think to yourself, I've been on a diet. I've been on a 1,400 calorie diet for the past 6 months, and I've lost about 25 pounds, but I've still got a fair whack to go.
I'm glad you said pounds instead of stones, because that would have been hard.
That would have been astonishing because for
there would have been nothing left of me
to start with. That would be quite crippling.
There's over 90 plugins on the WP. I'm ashamed to say, listeners and viewers, I know that the emails will come my way, but it just happens. So all this crap about to say it's
it's premature to applaud one small aspect of what the Gutenberg blocks does while ignoring the devil's in the details. I mean, legitimately, I could draw a wireframe of a website and it'll load in a millisecond, but that's not really quite the same as a dynamic, fully functional website. But apparently he and other people are so eager to just get like some kind of, was there an incentive to write this article? I don't know, but it just seems like really way too much too soon.
I think that it's just a matter of like you can easily show KPIs when you have speed tools, speed checkup tools. So it's really easy to see that one is on the green and one is on the red. But I agree that, and even in the article it said that to get to the broken result that he managed to get to, not because of him, because of the product itself, he had to install like 4 or 5 different add-ons that came from different places, different developers,
custom CSS,
a whole bunch. So yeah.
Like,
but as long as it's green, as long as the Google speed test is green,
That's all about like, the green, the Benjamins.
As soon as you hit CSS, like again, I taught that for 8 years. The second you have to use CSS, you might as well just go to Bootstrap. I mean, you might as well just go right back to Genesis with Bootstrap, because there's no reason that anybody should ever have to use CSS when you're using a block builder or a page builder.
Well, it's a bit like the Oxygen. Oxygen's been doing a good job, and I keep trying to get the CEO. If any of the panel know the CEO of Oxygen, I keep doing outreach to him, and he keeps avoiding replying. But they've been doing a good job of trying to market themselves as the speed, and they point out all the nested tables of Elementor and also Divi, and to some extent Beaver Builder, but Beaver
Builder does have a bad case of divitis.
Not compared to Elementor, it's a virgin. But like I say, when you get back to the reality of what Vito pointed out and what I've admitted to, the reality of the situation is very different to people on a YouTube channel making a 5-minute video, and they're not lying, but it's like what Spencer says, it's in the detail, really. And that's, so thanks for that. So Spencer, have you got a product or service that you want to recommend to our beloved listeners and viewers?
This is a good one. So there's been a lot of talk lately about alternatives to Slack, but like Discourse and so forth, which I enjoy. We tried it, but they're actually kind of struggling, in my opinion, to meet certain criteria. So Luke and I were working, because we use Slack ourselves. We needed some way to archive knowledge that allowed us to seamlessly get to it from Slack, but at the same time, Slack really lacks a good way to store long-term, like discussions. So there's a product at slab.com that is free for a small team. Like, I can't imagine you even have to pay for it. It gives you a /slab, like, type it in, create or find. And it's like a Google Docs private repository that's free for most teams up to more than you want, that connects directly to Slack, which means you can on the fly or independently create long form documents that your team needs and then be able to actually access it. So if you're having this thing like, we're building something or talk about something, or just I want to save some webinar script. So check it out at slab.com. The integration with Slack is everything, because there's not that many things that work this way. They always require.
I'm going to be so English and cynical here. I'm sure Salesforce will stop that in the
near future. Well, their pricing. It's free for up to 10 users with a certain limit of unlimited posts. I mean, like,
no, I meant the API. I'm sure they do a Twitter.
Well, maybe, but this is their primary purpose. Is what I'm saying. Like, I think their purpose is not to be a document repository. It's to be an accessory to Slack, and this is like we're talking about today. Like, why does an ecosystem of add-ons happen? I bet you that Salesforce, if they're not responsible, would want to buy this and make it part of the Slack product.
You would have thought, but yeah, I totally follow you. John, got anything you want to recommend to the listeners and viewers?
Yes. My recommendation this week is an article by Jamie Indigo that appeared on Search Engine Journal. It's entitled Digital and Disinformation: What the SEO Industry Can Do to Fight Manipulation.
Well, just avoiding those beer festivals. That's what you got to do, really, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's a start.
Yeah, there we are. Especially when you're preaching people equality and ramming it down their freaking throat. There we go. That's an old story for another time, listeners and viewers. Vito, oh God, Vito, have you got anything you want to recommend to the listeners and viewers?
Yeah, so as I wrote here on the chat, like I haven't been on for a while, so I'll use this spot to promote something I've been working on for like 6 months now.
God, you're one of my favorite people, so I'll let you have it.
It's allowed, right? So please check out wahi.io, which is WAAHI. And this is basically based on the platform that we created to run our virtual summit last year. Well, we've been running events with this for like custom events for all kinds of different organizations throughout the year. But one of the interesting points that is starting to be used with this is the virtual office. So this is something that I think a lot of remote teams are really lacking, or especially now with the kind of concept of everyone is being remote, creating an environment where everyone can consolidate and work from one place based on video, based on these type of group conversations, boardrooms and like private offices for different groups, shared offices for different teams like marketing teams and development teams that can just kind of tap someone on the shoulder and say, can you please look at this, share the screen for a second, instead of going to Zoom, finding the link, or like 15 different clicks until you find the share link on inside Zoom, and then go to Slack, share it over there, wait for the guy to see it. So like really speeds up a lot of productivity for teams that used to work from the same space, but now are not. This is exactly the solution.
I will go and have a look at it myself. Sally, got anything you want to recommend to the listeners and viewers?
Yes, I am going to recommend WordFest Live, which is happening next week. I mean, the website says the 22nd, but it's actually, because it's a 24-hour event in my time zone, which is Pacific, like the first thing I'm going to go to is like Wednesday night, and then there's some things on Thursday and some things on Friday. But there's a bunch of interesting stuff going on, and wherever you are, you'll probably find something that appeals to you.
Oh, well, sounds fascinating. I will go and have a butcher's at that. Well, panel, I know it's been a bit of a war and peace episode, but I think it's been a fantastic episode. I think we've had a great discussion. Vito, thank you for joining us. I hope you must join us back again next month or whatever.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No, you are part of the regular panel, but we understand that babies and other commitments come first, don't they?
Yes, my husband, foolishly, after the colleague he was working with had recently had a baby, my husband said, "How much time can one kid take?" And I responded and said, "All of it."
4 cats.
I had a Newfoundland dog, and that used to take up a lot of time. So
yeah, well, cats are less helpless than babies.
Okay.
Babies like 4 cats plus 2 dogs, because you also have to pick up the poop.
I'm not going there.
Not just pick up; you gotta wipe it off. It's even worse.
Yes, the output of an infant is a remarkable substance. It could possibly be a weapon of mass destruction.
Well, thank you for that, panel. Listeners and viewers, we'll see you next week with another great roundtable show. We'll see you soon, well, very soon. Actually, the weeks just seem to disappear.
5 minutes. It's 5 minutes from now.
We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
Bye.